You can hear people reading fat cats. With your team, I want to just use you as a point of contact to thank all of you who have kept on the idea that mentorship is a good thing. And mentorship is not in words, it's also actions. So by doing this, you're also mentoring others who are following you. So thank you so much on behalf of the organizers. So all the guild presidents who have gathered, all the speakers, all the big titles I have had. So titles are good to the extent that the man or woman behind them is a good person. Because titles disappear with time. It is the person behind them that matters. Now, all of you who came, so I came straight from, I was out of the country, I came straight here, and when I was coming, I kept thinking, what do I share with people? Because every day is different. And often you meet people and you think you can share what you shared with the last group, but the 3rd of October 2024 will never return. I hope you know that. Never come back. So let's put it to use, and what we learn here should be fresh. If it is not fresh, it should reinforce what you already know, and you become a better you. No need to compete against you, neighbor, against you, relative, it doesn't matter. Just compete against yourself. You'll find that you do a lot of good when you do this. So this mentorship work, we began really thinking we should get old people who have retired above 70 and bring them to the country, to the media, to the leadership of the country and say, we have nothing to give you other than these 2 words, thank you for all you did. The right decisions you made when you had the opportunity to make those decisions as fathers and mothers. Leadership starts in a home. It's not so much the big titles. The decisions you made as leaders at districts, local government, central government, in the academic world, the science world, to just say we thank you, because if a country can't thank those who have served, it cannot serve those who want to replace them. But then it kept expanding, and I thank the PASEI team led by Matthew, because they kind of brought intergenerational thank you. I think that's what happened in March of this year in Entebbe, to say, while we thank the older people, we are also demonstrating to the young that it pays to serve your country, to be a good person for yourself and for your country, not to compete with anyone. And so we find that to mentor is one of the biggest responsibilities a person can do. Fathers mentor by the actions they take in the home. If they are negative, they are still mentoring. So a father who enters a home and children run away, or they hide, daddy has come, he is mentoring. He is showing the young generation what kind of father this young generation should be. A mother who enters and asks the person in the kitchen how they are today, what they cooked, if they are working mothers, is demonstrating to the children in a home that you are important, but there is this person who seems to be invisible in the home, but who, if you don't have, the food is not cooked. A father who in the morning is jumping in the car and sees someone sweeping the compound and says, "Abana bagenze kusomero walera wabo." You understand Uganda? Just a word like that to people they call shamba boys. Just because someone is sweeping the car. That word makes the life of that person, that person's weak. All that is mentoring. All that is mentoring. And so we mentor by actual teaching, but we even mentor more by our meeting, and the MC said, I have a story to share. I was a young girl in Mary Stewart, and this fellow came looking for people to recruit as event managers, and we were all young and giggling. So I kept waiting, what will this person say I did? And she said, he took us, gave us work, but he taught us the value of hard work. I mean, this is 20-something years ago. How would I have known that I'm mentoring someone who would be the president of East African Business Council? So our actions really matter. So that's why this word, mentorship, very little used, but extremely needed in a country that is changing rapidly, where the young and the old seem to share particular values. Some of those values are often not good, and then we lack this voice that says perhaps there's a way to get things done without fear or favor. That's mentorship. And so I thought I should share with you just a couple of things and resume my seat and take your questions. I think questions would be more important than me loading it on you on an afternoon on a Thursday. So the question that came to my mind when I was coming is, what is the source of competitive advantage for a young person? Do we all know the meaning of the term competitive advantage? Yes, so I'm glad that you know, so I don't have to define it for you. If you are young, there are certain things you all share. So when I look at you, I see a particular age. These days, young people seem to go to university much younger than us. So I see young presidents who look like my son's age. My son is 20 years old, and my daughter 19. I see people in that age group. Or maybe it's just, we forget that even me, that's how I looked when if you ask my sister, she'll tell you, that's how we looked when we were younger at university. So in terms of age, you can say we have a median age where we all sort of face similar things, whether it is growing up, whether it is restraint, we share that. Education, if we are all educated to a particular level, that's an advantage we all share. So there's no competitive age anyone has. So where I grew up, my two siblings had to be removed from school for me to go to primary one. And these are very smart people. They are now in their 60s. They didn't have the chance to go to school because there was no this often disregarded idea called UPE and USE. Those who were not there at the time, to just see a blackboard was such a huge advantage. So that now education is available, online, offline. So it's not a competitive advantage. You all share some things, especially at university. When you have a stable country, that's a competitive advantage for everyone, because there are countries around us and in the world where bombs are falling on homes and children can't go to school and universities are closing. But if you're stable, you thank God for that. You don't take it for granted. And you work to keep it stable in ways that God gives you. If you have basic manufacturing, because we are not an industrial society, we are largely a pre-industrial society emerging slowly with a small middle class that is Western oriented. When I was coming in the car, I read what Professor Mazrui, who was a teacher of Professor Mondani, when I came to university, he was living. He said Africans tend to have Western tastes without Western production techniques. So we dress nicely, but our production techniques and capabilities are not of the same people who make this clothing. He said we have Western urbanization without Western industry, because industrial manufacturing is where centers of living and middle class emerges. So you have a very rapid urbanization that is so disorganized with many slums because you don't have industry to take in those people. And he said, we are secularizing, we are abandoning faith and religion without science. He said Africans have a contradiction because the Japanese West grew their industry without necessarily abandoning their culture and language. So are the Chinese, so are many people that we see of the industrialized countries. But if you have basic manufacturing, plastics, food processing now that is coming up in Uganda, production of basic medicine, you now have a particular base. So if you get age, education, stability, basic manufacturing, these are not competitive advantages. Maybe you could say technology can be a competitive advantage for me now as a young person. Are we together? So there's something I call it a guitar, guitars. God gives each one of us particular gifts. But we have to get those gifts to work. He gives us special talents. Talanta. No talanta. The last World Cup I watched Mbappe dribbling, you know about football lovers, right? Dribbling in the World Cup and running ahead of the competitor and stopping instead of scoring and just smiling and then moving and puts in the goal. He's not playing football. It's a talent, it's in him. And if he doesn't get it out, his purpose is not fulfilled. So he gives us, God gives us gifts, talents, and abilities, special abilities. That's the A in the guitars. G is gifts, T is talents, A is abilities, particular abilities. There are people who are able to run 25 kilometers at a very high speed even when they are 60 years old. But there are 25-year-olds who can't run 2 kilometers. Special abilities, but those people who still do it at 60, it means that they're eating the right diet. They're sleeping at the right time. They are not intoxicating their bodies. They have emotional health. They are not on social media insulting each other. They also make sure that their spiritual health is strong. There is an old man whose name I won't mention. He turned 80, but I know that he still does things that 30-year-olds don't do. It means that even when we have gifts, talents, and special abilities, we have to work them. And then the final one in the guitars is resources. All of us have particular resources, small, big, but they're there, that God gives us. So, if we have special guitars, and if we all are educated, and if we all share similar ages, what would be a competitive advantage? Can it be technology? So I thought maybe. And then I looked at the year 1700. The steam engine is created. Steam engine creates capacity for industries to produce cotton, wool, and start the Industrial Revolution in Europe, in Britain. But then the steam engine, has anyone like history? So you need to really like and study history if you're a scientist, because there's absolutely nothing new in the world. We just apply ourselves to the new reality and we think, no, to an old reality and we think we're the first to do that. So steam engine is replaced by a motor, combustion engine in the 1800s. A motor is what began to get to the conscience of the West to stop slave trade. So William Wilberforce had the conscience as a person to stand against slave trade. But really, it's the economy that forced the end of slave trade. Because you don't need human muscle when you have a motor. The motor creates the necessary production you want. So sometimes when you mix these things and you see the moral side on forget the structural side of things. So if we focus sometimes on classroom work only, we don't see the country we are studying in and what is needed to be done. And so the motor and the combustion engine later sort of reduce the capacity of the steam engine. Fast forward in the 70s, we have a personal computer revolution, a PC, that a computer is no longer one huge piece of equipment seated in a lab, in a library, in a university, but that each one of us can process information on a personal computer. But now all that technology gets disrupted every day. Now there's something called generative artificial intelligence. Is this something you know as young people?
Yes.
What does Gen AI do? Because you are the workers of today and tomorrow, you need to know that. So AI basically takes data sets that you have gathered, whether how Odrek speaks, his voice, sound, text, and creates patterns in this data and learns quicker and solves basic problems in business and in life. Some people think it will replace a human being. I don't think it will. It will be an alternative way to compete. So if I have started in 1700 up to date, you can see that technology is not a competitive advantage. He or she who learns what to do with it will eventually be overtaken by another who creates something new. So if technology is not a competitive advantage, material resources are not a competitive advantage. If material resources of the country, natural resources were a competitive advantage, Uganda would beat a lot of the countries in the Middle East. If you fly to the Middle East, you are taking off at midday, you will see like bubbles of steam over a city that kind of blind your eyes because it's 38 degrees temperature, and you can see that this society is so stressed that it had to develop. They are too stressed naturally. No natural resources, only the desert and the water. The water is not enough to give you the fish. The oil has ended. You must create a good metropolis like Dubai or Abu Dhabi, where Africans like to go, because you are too stressed to survive. That's the story of Israel, that's the story of Singapore, that's the story of South Korea. You hear these big TVs we use here, the Samsungs. South Korea is half of the year snow, and it is 60% mountainous. Only the valleys grow rice and potatoes, and it cannot serve 50-60 million people, so people have to be innovative. So if Uganda natural resources were a competitive advantage, we would be much more developed than those resource-scarce countries. So if biology, some people these days say that I'm embarrassed because for me, it is not where you were born or your home school. The family you come from teaches you certain values. But really, biology cannot be a competitive advantage. Am I speaking things you've had? Taken Konohu for the job. Please never give me taken Konohu job, because in all my life, I strive to use my mind, my hands, my body strongly without trying to compete with anyone. In the end, wherever God places me, you can throw me, because I've been a security guard in the past. But I come up among security guards. I own the taxi, drive a taxi, but the customer who sits in this taxi, you better have a clean mouth, not smelly armpits, you better have a white shirt, and you better tell the customer so much about what you know of where you are driving this customer. So competitive advantage is not in biology, it's in exertion. It's not in natural resources, it's in how people create what's not available. So if, I don't want to take a lot of time, if all those things are not competitive advantages, what can we perhaps say this can be for a young person at university? The first one, so I have 4 of those. The first one, the areas could provide a competitive advantage is knowing who you are when you are young. Because that gives you a mission. A mission is what really defines your purpose for existence. When we know these things, why we are here, when we are young, we are asking ourselves existential questions when others are asking themselves material questions. What dress will I wear in the upcoming party? Those are the basic questions. Which phone is Kiamba using? What shoes is the director wearing? This is a distraction. The right question is, why am I here? And those questions are not asked when you are in the pub. They are not asked when you are having fun. Those questions come after midnight. They are very lonely questions. They are questions which your father and mother can't answer. They are questions which your pastor or imam cannot really give you an answer. They are questions which no minister, MP can help you with. They are very personal. They are very deep. They are asking the reason for being here. When you ask yourself those questions, you begin to understand, I am here for a reason. And therefore, the distractions tend to pale in the distance. Then certain values begin to emerge because you are asking yourself questions alone. You are not distracted by entertainment, by peers, by friendships, important as they are. So, that's a very defining competitive advantage, because few people start with questions. The older I grow, the more questions I ask, and the less answers I have, because almost everything is strange. I don't have time to speak to you about this one we do in exports, but we sit in the government ministry and we look at the number of ministers, the budgets, the commissioners, and we look at what did you achieve 6 months ago, a year ago, with the budget you were given. And those questions are existential questions for the ministry. When you ask those questions, you should see either people file out or they hate you, because those are not your questions to ask. We are here because there is recurrent expenditure. We don't have money, so nothing moves. But then you realize that you are meeting these people at a very particular age where change is difficult. That's why I'm excited to speak to university students, because here we can start to crack the code and start to begin to form values that the country needs in order for it to remain stable and growing. By the way, those are not obvious. Stability and growth require hard work. And hard work is not title. Hard work is individual effort joined with other collective efforts to deliver something. So that's number one. Are we together? The second area to begin to understand your competitive advantage is to build character to give you resilience, honesty, persistence, parsimony, selling, and the right perspective to relationships and to work. If you get those things when you are young, you should thank God for it. So the Greek word for character comes. So, do you want me to tell you some of these words? Will you keep them? Yes. Because when I get a word, I know that this English is so cheap. It doesn't bring out the real underlying meaning of things. The word for character in the original Greek language is charising. K-H-A-R-E-N-S-S-I-N-G. Charising or charising. We without an ing. And what it means in the English, the real English language, adopted from Greek language, is engraving. This microphone, if I get something and engrave it with a number, this microphone, 100 years and less, this carbon fiber rods, you will find the number on. It's the same thing you see with furniture in schools, and they engrave a number. So the Greeks knew that character has to be built by digging in, not surface. Remember the midnight example I gave you? The existential question? So, caressing or engraving means that to build character is hard work. Character is not reputation. We fight so much for reputation on social media, with our sisters and brothers in parties and functions, university degrees. All those things are important, but they are not so significant to give you character. They are reputational things. Reputation is what they say about you. Character is who you truly are alone. If you are able to build character around honesty, around resilience, bouncing back, what Matthew was trying to share with you, to have the right perspective, I must work in order for me to earn. I must restrain myself in a relationship. If I get a girlfriend or boyfriend, I must try and walk in their mind and in their shoes and understand them instead of seeking out that which makes me happy. Because young people don't keep marriages. I thank God now we are entering our 23rd year of marriage, and when you go for that, I thank you, because people don't talk about marriage anyway. So we come from different perspectives. I am a very public person. I have always taught since I was 22 years old, 22 or 21, 1992, 93, Pan-Africanism, universities, colleges, youth councils. I have always been really, really public. My wife is very quiet, very reserved. I have always been intellectual. Debate, for her, she is faith. Not that there is a problem with intellect and faith, but you must meet somewhere. And so, God spoke to her in 2006, we have reached that, I'm going to be a pastor. Pastor? Really? I said, yes. So, if I wasn't a restrained husband, I would say, not at all, not in my home. No, we're supposed to be intellectuals here, right? But you have to understand that someone's calling is not your calling. You must learn to support your partners